When you're scrolling through endless listings of home theater speaker sets, you've probably seen the glossy photos, the 5.1 badge, and that promise of cinema-grade sound without stepping out of the living room. The problem is, many of those bundles look amazing on the page but end up sounding like a thin, tinny echo when you finally hook them up. I've been in that spot more than once, spending a weekend setting up a new system only to realize the dialogue is muffled and the bass feels more like a tickle than a thump. That's why today's review is all about keeping you from buying a set that looks great but disappoints in real use. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of room you need for a full-blown 5.1 system. The definitive technology Dymension bundle packs two DM40 tower speakers, a DM20 center channel, a pair of DM95 rear speakers, and a DN8 subwoofer. It's a fairly sizable package, and that's intentional. These aren't bookshelf speakers you can toss on a cramped desk. If you have a dedicated home theater space or at least a living room that can accommodate two floor-standing towers and a sub, you'll get the most out of this system. Smaller apartments or open-concept spaces where furniture placement is limited will struggle to place the rear speakers at the recommended 110-degree angle without compromising sightlines or creating a cluttered look. One of the first practical strengths that showed up when I tried the Dymension system in a 20-foot by 15-foot room was the way the DM40 towers handled the main left-right channel. The integrated ribbon tweeters and the mid-range drivers blend smoothly, so dialogue from movies and TV shows stays crisp even at lower volume levels. I tested it with a nighttime dialogue-heavy film, and unlike many entry-level systems where the words get buried, I could hear every line without cranking the volume. That's a win for anyone who watches a lot of drama, sitcoms, or news broadcasts. The DN8 Subwoofer is a 8-inch model, which at first glance might seem modest compared to the massive 12-inch subs you see in high-end home theater kits. However, the real-world impact is surprisingly satisfying for its size. When I played a modern action movie with lots of explosions, the sub delivered a tight, controlled low-end that added depth without overwhelming the room. The key here is the sealed enclosure design. Rather than letting the bass balloon out like a cheap boombox, it stays focused, which is ideal if you're watching late at night and don't want the floor shaking the neighbors. Now, no system is perfect, and the Dymension bundle has a few trade-offs that matter once you start using it daily. The rear DM95 speakers are designed for a 90-degree placement, but they're relatively large for true surround speakers. If you have a standard rectangular layout, you'll likely need to mount them on the side walls or place them on stands that push them out into the listening area. That can create an over-surround feel, great for immersive action scenes, but it also makes the surround channel feel a bit dominant in quieter, more intimate content. If you primarily watch dialogue-driven movies, you might find the rear channel a little intrusive unless you adjust the surround levels down in your AV receiver. Another practical limitation is the lack of built-in wireless connectivity. The system is wired, which means you'll be threading speaker wire from each tower, the center, the rears, and the sub back to your AV receiver. For most audiophiles this isn't a deal-breaker, but if you're looking for a clean, minimalist setup with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi streaming directly to the speakers, you'll need an external adapter or a receiver that handles those features. The wiring can be managed with cable raceways, but it does add a layer of installation effort that first-time home theater buyers sometimes overlook. Who should buy this bundle? If you already own a decent AV receiver and are ready to upgrade from a modest 2-channel stereo or a cheap soundbar, the Dymension set feels like a logical next step. It shines for movie enthusiasts who appreciate a clear center channel and want a sub that adds depth without being overbearing. The built-in design of the towers also means you won't need to hunt for separate floor-standing speakers, so it's a good match for someone who prefers a cohesive brand aesthetic and doesn't want to mix and match components. On the flip side, if you're a gamer who relies heavily on positional audio, you might find the rear speaker placement a bit too forgiving. The DM95s are competent, but they don't deliver the pinpoint accuracy of dedicated gaming surround modules that sit closer to ear level. Additionally, if you're on a tight budget, the Dymension bundle is a sizable investment, you could potentially pull together a comparable soundstage with separate speakers from other brands at a lower overall price, especially if you can source used units. Another scenario where I'd recommend skipping this set is if your room's acoustic treatment is minimal. The towers and sub will reproduce frequencies accurately, which,